Hello, welcome to Sex, Lies, and Blank Pages with our special guest, Mickey Miller.
Hi, Mickey.
Welcome,
How are you?
Mickey.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Tell
So
us a
glad to
little
have
bit
you here.
Yeah, so good. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am an author. I've been writing
We assumed that much.
romance for since 2016. I think I published my first book in 2016. It was a baseball romance. And since then, I've published about 24, 25 contemporary sports romances. I've written 10 books that have been number 100 or below in the Amazon store. I've had one book in the Amazon charts in the top 20. And that was my book, Hate Mates. And I am from the great city of Chicago, Illinois. And I'm also a musician on the side. That's my elevator pitch.
You like to I love what people that are in like all different kind of arts where like I was acting and it's funny. It's a way we constantly have to express ourselves like through some kind of form of art.
I find that to be the case. I come from my dad's side of the family is like very artistic, like they're all playing a band together. My one uncle is a writer and like this stuff, but then my mom's side is completely blue collar, like hammer and like one works in steel, like and so it's like a total contrast. I kind of grew up seeing like those two sides of the family. So I think I have a nice mix, but I think I also wasn't afraid to like pursue, like I think some people think art is like looked down upon almost by their family. And I definitely did not feel that growing up. So
Well, what did they say when you said specifically that you were writing romance books?
Yeah.
at first I didn't say anything. I didn't really even talk to my family about it. I just started doing it and I didn't know, like, was I just going to secretly do this? I considered having a female pen name. I know, there are male authors who have that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think once when they found out, which was like after my first book got published, my mom was like, it's great that you're writing those books. I'm not going to read them, but it's good that you're doing something that you love, basically.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I
And
love
she's
supporting
from
it.
that more blue collar type of upbringing, right?
Yeah, she was, my mom actually, she was an electrician. Uh, and, but she reads a lot. Like, honestly, I think like my pen name Miller is my mom's maiden name. Now you can hack all my passwords and whatnot. But
Think the real
Can I just say, I love that your mom was an electrician. That's amazing.
Yeah.
honestly, when I start to put, it's like when you get older and you're like, that is insane. And she was like an electrician in the 70s and 80s when like
Wow,
she was like the only woman. And my mom, by the way, she's like, she's hot too. Like she's attractive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I cannot imagine. She's very good natured, like she said, whatever. But I was like, I can't imagine how it would have been like on work sites in the 70s and 80s, being like
yes,
the only
then,
female
yeah.
electrician around. And so yeah, it's just like you kind of realize as you grow up, like stuff that your parents did that's just like wow, they're just trying to make it, they're just trying to do just like we are now. So
Yeah. And she had a unique perspective of that industry at that time. And I think you probably have a very unique perspective of our industry at this time to be, being a male romance author.
Can I ask what made you like start like one day you were like, I want to write not just a book, but romance book. What made that kind of like
He's got a whole story. Tell it, Mickey. right from the beginning.
Wait, let's go.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Okay,
it's a good one.
Because it is kind of crazy because I consider myself like different than a lot of the male authors in the genre, and like I sincerely enjoy writing romance and like but okay, so first I read this book by Tucker Max. I hope they serve beer in hell. You may or may not have heard of it, but it's like from the early 2000s, and basically he's writing about his like sexcapades, and it was a New York Times bestselling book.
What was that called
What-
again?
I know.
I hope
it's
they
called
serve beer in hell.
I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell.
Oh,
And
that sounds a
but
good
he's
title.
like, it's like a funny book, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's in the romance category, but
No.
I just started thinking, I'm like, what? I'm like, do they have novels with like, because I knew about romance a little bit. I'm like, do they have novels about men where like men, I mean, from a male perspective, which it's funny because, obviously Hollywood and all that stuff, it's like way more men writing. And like, even if you look at like romantic comedies, it's like from the 90s and 2000s, aside from like Nora Ephron, it's like you have a lot of men like dictating kind of like the tone of the romantic stories.
Mhm.
So it's like, and women write a lot of romance, obviously it's way more women are writing romance novels. But I just thought to myself, I'm like, there seems to be some kind of like, why don't men like write romance, or like, what is like the male romantic arc? Like, is there a novel like this? And I read like Charles Bukowski wrote a book called Women. If you ever heard of him, and like he's kind of a faint writer from like the 60s. The same thing. It's like this sort of noir, like realism, like Henry Miller type and stuff. But anyways, I'm sorry guys. I'm big on long-winded tangents, so I hope you guys will
Go for it.
You're fine.
I,
You're
yeah.
fine.
ask one simple question, and this is how it goes. And then I was in the Peace Corps, and I started reading a lot of like just all different kinds of books. And I have this book here, so I wanted to show. It's called The News from Paraguay, and I was in Paraguay. That's where I was in the Peace Corps for 2 years. And this is before iPhones. Like I just hadn't, I wasn't doing a lot. So I was reading a ton. Like I read, a lot of books that I never would have read. Which this is also like unbeknownst to me. This was in like 2010, 12. So like 50 Shades of Grey and that whole like revolution was happening, and I didn't even have a Kindle. It was just like not going on the internet. I was just like reading my books. And but this book I discovered, the funny thing about this book, The News from Paraguay, is like I like history. I'm kind of not a history nerd, but like I like to know about history. And I read this book. So my friend, I had it at her house, and she was like, "Do you want to read this? Like, it's a cool book." And I was like, "Okay." So I read it, and I learned more from reading this book about like Paraguayan history and it's cool because it's told through the perspective of this like Irish girl who's writing letters back to her sister in Ireland. And then she comes to Paraguay, and she's like this princess, and she thinks she's going to be a princess. She ends up being a mistress of this dictator of Paraguay, and her like time there ends up like paralleling Paraguay's like downfall from, they used to be one of the biggest countries in South America, and they lost this big war, and a bunch of stuff happens, and then like the sex kind of like parallels that. You like can't get it up toward the end, and he's like countries falling apart. And I'm like, God, this is so cool. I was like, I'm so effing entertained. And I'd been reading some Thomas Frank, like The World is Flat, like one of these boring like nonfiction books, because I'm like, I'm gonna learn. And I was like, why am I like nails against a chalk? Like, why am I just grinding to read? Like, I would like to enjoy reading. And then it sort of dawned on me. I was like, well, it's more fun to write things that people are actually going to read, like romance, which is the number one selling genre. And then I thought, well, that's cool. And that thought like stuck in my head for, it was still years until I actually tried to write, or I wrote like a romance novel. But like, I think that like the seeds were planted, and then I kind of because I think when like having a long-term vision of, okay, it's a like to write 24 books, or it's like even to write one book and like see it through all the way and take a lot of time and effort into it. It's like you have to actually believe that this book is, like good, like a good story, like good to tell, that it's a story worth telling, and not just be like, oh, like I'd love to make some money or something, like something like that. So anyways, that's I don't know if that answers, hopefully that answers
It
So that-
definitely
but that-
answers. But
yeah.
how many
So-
romance novels did you read while you were in the Peace Corps?
Yeah. I was like, come on.
Dude,
You read more than
I read I read so yeah, this one girl had this stack of romances. It's like these old, it's like, this is
Bodice rippers
2000s
more.
romance. It was like The
Harlequin.
Dirty Girls Social Club. I still remember some of these books. Was reading that. I read this book. It was not a romance necessarily, but it definitely like had some erotic scenes. It was actually it's a New York Times bestseller by Roberto Bolaño. Savage Detectives, that was the name of it. And I was like, wow, this is like really like
You're like,
fun.
stirring my seats a little.
Yes.
But I did read when I started out, right? Like when I got started read or was like, okay, maybe I'll try to write like like contemporary romance novel. I just started reading and I read like I just picked like the latest like contemporary romance. So I read like Penelope Ward, Vi Keeland, Penelope Douglas, and those were like my three go-tos. I think I just would like read them. So
And I already told the ladies about my first interaction with you. And when you messaged me and I was like, who is this dude? And did he really just want to say hi? Which you did, which was lovely. It was refreshing. But what was your experience coming into the industry? And, it feels oftentimes, or it used to feel like a very small community. It's quite larger now, much larger. But so you have this very small community that's primarily women. What'd you think of it? What happened?
I'll tell you this, I had no idea what I was getting into. I was like,
Probably a good thing.
I didn't really know about the whole community aspect. I just thought, okay, I'm gonna write this book. I have like an angle. I'm gonna do like, so I went to Romance Writers of America in 2016. This is before I published, like I had a manuscript and I was just like, one of my life mottos is like, if you really want to do something, then like, you got to make it real. And I felt that, going to an actual physical conference would help that. I had honestly no idea that it was going to be like, I don't know what the percentage of women it is, but they had literally changed all the bathrooms to either unisex or female in the entire hotel because there was like 5,000 women attending this conference. So like, I remember going to the bathroom, there's like a woman washing her hands, like, what's going on? Like, I'm not just like, I just like, it's like, what? I had to like get used to it. But it was kind of fun in a way. It was like, wow, this is cool. There's like all these women. I was just like chat at the bar and like people are really, they like see me and then they'll tell me like some crazy story. And I'm like, like learning a lot about the world and about, just people for whatever reason, people at the bar would be totally fine with telling me they're like, super crazy stories and
at the bar drunk. Yeah.
I'm just the kind of person.
Bartender happens all the time.
That's where the best stories come out.
Nice. You're a bartender. So
I used to be. I did that, like traveled all through Europe during bartending. Yeah.
Oh, well, that sounds
It sounds amazing.
and like as I kind of so yeah, I didn't really know what I was kind of getting into necessarily. And I waltzed into this first, like there was sessions. They had the Romance Writers of America sessions, and they had a session on the difference between romance, erotic romance, and erotica, which I was just like, oh, this is kind of interesting. So like to see the nuances. So I like walked in and I sat down next to this woman who was an assistant, turned out to be. And I still remember like I walked in, I just like, I've always sit in the front row person because I'm just like, God, everyone's sitting in the back, like just sit in the front row and just like actually, listen to the people because it's really annoying. Anyways, if you're a presenter and no one's in the front row. So I sit in the front row and this woman just like staring at me. She's like, are you supposed to be here? I'm like, do you know where you are? I'm like, yeah, hi, my name's Mickey. Like, nice to meet you. And she's like, what are you doing here? Very skeptical, but we ended up, I just told her, I'm like, yeah, I want to write romance. Like I did it. I gave her, kind of told her what I was trying to do. And she was like, that's really cool. She's like, do you know what you're doing? I'm like, not really, not with marketing or anything like that. And she's like, why don't we like talk? So we ended up talking for a couple hours that morning. And I was honestly debating, I'm like, should I have a female pen name? Like, not that I'm like ashamed, wanted to be whatever, but I was just like, is that just better for marketing or something like that? Which is an interesting thing. Like it's still
Well,
kind of debatable to me if
Mhm.
that's would make a
7
difference.
years ago, it was a hot
Yeah.
topic because women
Mhm.
were much more comfortable with women writing their romance books. And it was also, I mean, I'm happy that you came out as you
Yeah.
because I can't imagine
Yeah.
you staying behind a pen name. Just like
Yeah,
I'm
it's
happy that she showed herself as well.
well at the end of the day, and that's like reaching out. Like I reached out to Willow. I just like basically then I came back to Chicago and I was like, okay, who are like the authors that are kind of starting right now that I see what they're doing. I like what they're doing. Maybe I can get some, nuggets of information from them or like wisdom, or maybe I can try to, we can kind of try to grow up together.
Like a
Um,
cohort. You wanted to find
yeah.
your cohort. Mhm.
And yeah, so just kept doing that, and it's been an adventure. Continues to be.
Yeah.
Do you still meet that skepticism at first? Like when you're first meeting either readers or authors? I know that you're getting in there with TikTok. Are those comments filled with skepticism, or what is your perception now of how you're perceived?
I don't know, honestly. Like I I had this moment this is years ago now, but I was hanging out with Seth King, which I don't know what he's up to now. That author, he's like a male romance author.
Mhm.
I was in Huntington, Illinois, and like it was a last second signing. These people they'd asked me to come, and I like was just crashing on like Seth King's like uh like on a I don't know, on the ground in his room anyways. But and him and this other officer like, Mickey, like you're like kind of a good looking guy. Like they're probably kind of thinking of you differently than like another author. They're like thinking of you in the books maybe. And I was like, no, it's like that's not how I'm like, I got me, and then there's like the cover model. Like I just don't think of myself like, I never have thought of myself as like a sort of cover model-y like type of a person. Like it's like I just always think about the writing.
Are you saying that
Uh,
you don't think that you're hot enough for readers to cross that line?
I mean,
Because
Oh,
I don't
I'm
know.
sure they've crossed it.
that's what I was just
Yeah.
thinking. Yes.
I guess that, I'm a decent looking guy, and maybe some do or whatever, but it just didn't, the thought didn't occur. It wasn't that wasn't like the wavelength that I was operating on. Like truly, I wasn't like thinking that way. But I think there's no doubt that there was like a benefit in some ways to be a good looking guy, writing romance. And I find it's kind of like anything, like some people really gravitate toward male authors, and they're like, for whatever reason, people are like, I really want to read a male author. And it's like, are they, but and then on the other hand, and people always say there's like kind of like this jealousy thing about like, oh man, I wish if I was like a guy, I would get so many like downloads and whatever, like sell so many books. And it's just like I can say very, surely that is not, there's not a correlation between like likes on the screen, like your social media following and like people who buy your books. And
Your
actually
conversion is different.
yeah, like your
Mhm.
conversion. I was talking to BT Aurelia about this, who he has a unique perspective. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know him. He's like,
He's Anne's husband. They're expecting a baby, and I
Yeah.
love them. They're very
Yeah.
kind.
Yeah.
yeah, he's a super interesting guy. I mean, yeah, obviously like war veteran hero, and he he's definitely backed away from book talk, even though obviously he met his wife and it's like a cool story. But he was saying that he was continuing to write, and he just wasn't selling many books. And it's more of a sort of, there's like a, I don't know,
They're co-writing together now, aren't they? I
I
believe.
think
I think
so.
so. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. I know he's keeping up and doing like some art
Mhm.
stuff, and like he's doing film and whatnot. But basically being like, you can have a huge following, but like at the end of the day, and I
You
still
want them to
believe
buy your books. Yeah.
yeah, like
Mhm.
people want to read like a good book, honestly. Like, and it does matter a little bit, like whatever, your branding for sure matters. But like I still believe if you have like a really good book and like you believe in it, people will sense it and they will read it, and like great things can happen on like Book Talk or whatever. So
I do want to preface this by saying that if your book does not do well, it does not mean that it wasn't a good book. Because sometimes people
that's
can
also
take
true.
that
Yeah.
statement, and
Yeah.
think that if it doesn't
Yeah.
do well, then it means it's not a good book. Marketing does play a key, and we as people
Huge
are
role.
part of our
Yeah.
marketing. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just want to throw that caveat out because
Yeah.
imposter syndrome is massive. And I know that we have other authors who are watching right now.
Yeah. That's one of those things.
Yeah,
Both are true. It's kind of a paradox like that.
it is. It's a balance.
But it's yeah, I think, I don't know. It's like I guess I'm still kind of navigating that a little bit, because right now I feel like I don't know, like I've been writing like it's hard to keep up the momentum, and it's like a ton of work, and you're not like the cool new thing. Like for a little while you can be like a year, even like 3 years, whatever, you can be like the cool new hot like male author, and then like it's like, well, all right, that was like last year, people, it's like, so
Well, that goes
you
to brand promise, right? Like, what is your following expecting from you? Also,
Yeah.
and you have delayed a little bit of publishing, right? Like your rate has gone down a little bit, and you've been doing a lot of. Well, now I'm talking for you, but
Yeah.
I think if you were
Mom.
publishing
You
more,
talked.
you might be selling more. If you're posting more on TikTok, you might be selling more. Maybe this is me chatting with my
I love
friend
how
who I want
Willow
to
is
sell
like
more books.
wants to be my
Yeah.
like consultant on like my
Literally.
brand consultant, but it's actually honestly helpful. And honestly the problem, not problem, but um it really isn't a problem. But I had a breakup like going into the pandemic. I had three things happen that stopped me from writing as much, basically, within about a year, maybe a year, basically. Number one was that this actually didn't stop me from publishing somehow, but was my cousin passed away, who I played in a band with. So I had this whole plan about like I was going to be a full-time romance author, but really I wanted to play in the band. Like that was like a big part of it. It was like, okay, I can do, full-time romance, and then I'll be able to do like daytime practices, and I won't have to go to my like day job. And then it's just crazy. Like on the day my dad was going to retire, my cousin passed away. Unfortunately, he was 22, and like just shockwaves through my family. That was like really dealing with that. And then meanwhile, I started publishing, and then had a breakup, and kind of was like dealing with that. And then whatever, time kept on. I managed to keep publishing. Started dating someone new, and then the pandemic happened, and then it was like, I don't know, it's just like there was in 2020 for me, just I hit this wall where I'd had like so much success. I was like going balls to the walls, and then I just like, I don't know, I couldn't write like I used to, and I was trying to write, and it just wasn't. It's like the juice wasn't flowing. Like I literally tried to write, and it just wasn't. It's like I needed to recalibrate or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Like we all have gone through that. We all understand
Okay.
that. We
And
hit
we're-
a wall.
And
Yeah.
we're also so sorry for your
I know.
loss. And I know
Yes.
from our relationship and being closer with you, I know that grief from losing your cousin was heavy, and it also was inspiring in some ways, right? Because for years you were telling me that you were going to write this book, and well, I'll let you take over for this moment.
I have been. I mean, I have a book that kind of stemmed from that, like kind of that period of when you lose someone, and then you go through it like with your family. I mean, for me, it was with my family, and kind of like the things that you will go through. And it's just like when it first happens, you're like, is it always going to be like this? Am I always going to feel like this horrible like every day? It's just like, honestly, it's like almost unbearable, like truly. And but you get on, and then all of a sudden you realize that like, holy crap, like a lot of people have gone through something like this, and like this is like, that's what's been happening in the world forever, like kind of thing. So I think, but it was just a confluence of you know, it's like when you're a writer, you want to write, you write about, for me, I write about to some degree, you know, I draw in whatever plot line, but it's going to have elements of like whatever I'm going through. So I've been writing a book about a band who loses their lead singer and then recovers or tries to create a new image using the lead singer's ex-girlfriend as like their new lead singer. And so she now has to sing the songs that her dead boyfriend, like love of her life, was writing about her.
Wow.
And so it's like, and
Oh,
then meanwhile, she's falling in love with his best friend. So it's like,
okay,
it's
already
just
signed me up for this one.
I know,
right.
me
I
too.
mean, it's literally, this is just, it's also, it's one of the big reasons I haven't been publishing as much. So I'm like, I've been kind of obsessing over this book, and it's to the point where there's like the balance between like perfectionism and courage. It's like you want to have a really good book, but you also don't want to like, yeah, it'll be good. I'll get that out next year. And then it's just like time gets on. So I really am working on that book, like, but it was like I needed some time to like process and then like figure out what that's going to be. And it's different from the other books in that it's like my hope is that if you were to have someone be like going that, you know, has something bad happen to someone that dies, you know, either too young or kind of what, it doesn't matter. I mean, if someone, no matter when someone dies, it's always like, you know, it's always too soon. So,
But the
um,
shocking grief, definitely, like
Yes.
the
yeah,
shock, like
like,
when they're younger and it's shocking, it
Mhm.
can definitely
yeah,
get to.
it's
I
like
know, yeah.
cut
You're
down, like,
bleeding your heart out in a book, and you're hoping that other people can cope through it, or at
Yeah.
least you
in,
can. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Keeping that. And I
I
think in the music angle, there's also this whole, you guys can see on my, board here, and it might be reversed, but if you guys can read, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I've been working on this like album of songs,
I've
which,
heard the one that I heard on that list, the silly
yes, it
little
is.
love
Yes, it
song. I
is.
actually posted on
Absolutely.
TikTok because
Oh, I gotta
I
hear that.
love the chorus. Oh, I post a little snippet on TikTok when I was in the
Yeah,
back
that
seat
was
of his
awesome.
car headed back. This was in Ohio,
Mhm.
right? And Lauren was in the car with me, my assistant. And I was like, Lauren, you have to listen to this. Like, I absolutely love this chorus. Um, but yeah,
Thank you.
sorry,
Yeah.
Mickey. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, I appreciated that. And it's just like I feel like I've been in like creating mode, and very soon the time is gonna come when I'm gonna have to switch into like all out, you know, like how much can I publicize this book mode. And I think it is gonna be like, I truly believe this will be like a special sort of moment of you know, for whatever. It's like I honestly I haven't been publishing as much lately. It was like it just, good things take time, and like I want to make this like a really special thing to have the, you know, have the music plus book. Like it's like a musical. Like it's kind of insane.
Um,
I feel like
Yeah.
you know, I'm the absent-minded professor in this. I'm like, oh yeah, and I'll put this like song in here, and like, but it's a labor of love. So I'm very excited about when it finally does, you know, come out. Just trying to, you know, bide my time until
And
then, basically.
yeah, have you felt writing it also helps you get through those moments? Like people reading it always will find like, God, you got me, you helped me through
mhm.
this. Like I was going through a traumatic time. A lot of us, they forget too, writing these a lot of times helps us later. Maybe not during that. It's a lot of times painful, but then later we're like, wow, that helped me center myself and cope through this tragedy too.
I think it does help create like some meaning, just writing it in general. Like it feels like such a senseless tragedy, and then you want to, like, at least my thought is to put that kind of in a fictional form, but like put that into the world in a way that people can see that they're not alone. And then like that fact alone helps you get over your own grief when you're just like, okay, wow, this person gets it too. Um,
100%. I wrote possessive when my brother-in-law died suddenly. He was a truck driver and got hit, T-boned, and died instantly. And I remember, yeah, you remember that, Mickey. Yeah, because we talked about it at the time. And like, it's one thing to like have your friends and have your family. It's another thing to just be in your own head and writing and getting it out.
I mean, dude, I was, and I still think about this to this day. I'm like, God, that is so, it feels still like unfair. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, no, you just got through it and you'd be, and I'm like, well, I'm like, God damn, like it was, of all my relatives, he was like the closest relatives. You know, it's like we played in a band, and I would sit at home like crying at night for like a month, not every night, but I would like watch a video and I would start to tear up. You know, it was like, and that was just, it's like being in that setting, and that's kind of like what the book's about too. It's like, and that's why I love it. It's a very, very slow burn. It's going to be interesting because it's 120,000 words right now. There's almost zero romance. There's like, but the tension is like so high.
Yeah.
That it's like, so to me, I'm like, it's, awesome, but
you can't rush that kind of romance either. That's like one of those, like, we shouldn't be together, but you're slowly like, falling in love. Yeah.
It's like, yeah. And also that whole, like going from that hopeless state to like really truly having those like hopeless scenes where it's like, you're like, God, this character, are they gonna like kill himself? Like what's gonna happen? And then you're like, okay, wow, they're like coming out. And then it's like, so you draw that feeling out of a reader and then like bring them through. And that's at least the goal. I mean, if I can do that to some extent, I will be more than happy.
And also to give them a happily ever after.
Yes.
Exactly. And the bangs, you do actually have to have them bang also. I don't know if you know this
at
or
least
not,
once.
but
yeah. Twice, we're recommending twice, but
yeah,
go for
at least. Yeah.
But it's funny because the happily ever after is like, people make fun of it or whatever, but it's like, you honestly
literally need
a happily ever after,
especially in a rough book
like
for your heart.
Yeah, people, they make fun of mental health also, and we need mental health. Like we need more love, we need more accepting ourselves, knowing that we're worthy of love, knowing even at our worst. That's why I love dark romance, because you can go to the lowest, like you could do some horrible things and you're on this journey with them where you still want them to be loved. And I think that does a lot for our own self-care too. So yeah, give them, I agree, Mickey. There's a lot of shaming. There's a lot of shaming of our books. I actually, dude, I had to stop myself from posting a TikTok last night. Because of these comments.
Girl.
Yeah. Well, you guys, I was talking to you about it. Like people were saying that that romance readers should be ashamed and the books should go back in the nightstands, that they're too proud now. And that it's gross. Yeah. And I was like, and it's because of current controversy and things going on with people taking things too far, people not understanding that real people are not your fictional characters, and things getting out of hand. And then it amplifies these voices that shame our genre. But
they would always shame that genre. 100%. They're the kinds that probably want to ban books and, that kind of thing. So this is like that perfect escape for them to take that whole genre and be like, you all are like this.
Exactly. Have you experienced, so you are in a different presentation than us. Like I get called all sorts of names and get told all sorts of things on YouTube, primarily by men. It's porn, it's, you should be ashamed. I did have a YouTube, I put it on YouTube. TikTok loved it. It was a Bible that was in my book by accident. YouTube did not love it.
Perfect.
But Mickey, since you're a man, what, like, do men talk to you like that? Do you like do you get these kinds of comments? Do you get
from girls or boys?
Yeah. We do. Yes.
Get a porn whore.
Yeah.
Dude, I think there's always there's like the balance between, it's like the balance of society where you have like, I don't know, it's like society's too boring and then you bring in more like fun and like romance books. And I don't know, like, I think what people don't get about romance is it's just like, if you went to a conference, you're just like, and I talk to my readers like all the time about this, and they're like, they have formed like meaningful friendships just through going to conferences. And it's like, it's just like it's in a lot of ways, it's a social club of
Mhm.
like, once you get past a certain age, like I'm 36 now. So it's like, it's harder to like make friends. And then so I talk to my readers about, they're all kind of in their like 30s and 40s and 50s something. They're like, now they have these like friendships with people from like Texas to like Virginia, and they are like, they'll like come for certain conferences and they like look forward to it. And then like the books as well are a part of it. But I think like, I don't know, I think anyone who's making like shaming TikTok comments or like stuff like that, I'm like, I just don't think they have anything better to do. And it's like, I don't know. It's like, do you really have, that's what you're doing? You're gonna make a comment like a negative comment like that. Like, just if people want to read some books, like,
Let them read it.
yeah,
Yeah.
just read the books. Let them read the books. Like,
The
there's,
important thing is to read.
Yeah.
yeah,
To read.
it's like,
I mean, their argument is that it is harmful. A lot of these people say that it is harmful, that it is that explicit nature.
get me
Like we've
started.
had legislation that has been proposed to censor romance books or to ban them from certain areas or to require ratings on them, which I'm honestly like, I don't mind the rating system, but I don't think that there's an efficient way to do that. So there is, I agree, just let them read their books, but at the same time, like there's a legitimate argument that is used to be incredibly harmful towards an entire genre,
mhm.
right?
It's used, but it doesn't,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
I
not
can't
helpful.
say
It's
like
used to be harmful. Yeah.
Exactly.
anybody banning books is on the wrong side.
Mhm.
100%.
What you say, like nothing should be
Yes.
banned. You don't want to read it, don't fucking read it.
Exactly.
Like,
If you don't
just
want your
like-
kids to read it,
Exactly.
maybe watch your credit card. I have had
Yeah.
children order the full sets of my Discreet series. And
Like,
yes, I got one that was returned with a note that said, "I'm sorry, please refund this." My 13-year-old ordered it. We've gotten emails where they're blaming me. Why would you let a child order this? I'm like, ma'am, she used your credit card. Like, I
Yeah.
like, like, this is not, I'm like, you should be watching your children. Maybe I didn't say that. I forwarded it to Sophie, who's very good with customer service. But yeah, I mean, it's the wild, wild west almost. And then when these controversies come up and these voices are amplified, it gets me very anxious because we have seen recently a lot of banning of books. So sorry, we kind of veered off here.
Yeah,
Nikki,
we need
but
to get,
I mean, we could ask you, have you ever been groped at a signing? Let's get back onto, let's get away from
let's
the
get to the
emotion.
juicy stuff.
Yeah,
Have you
let's
ever
get
been
to, or
groped?
do you know any, I mean,
Nitty-gritty.
you're close with these male authors. I'm not, right? These male romance authors. You've seen a lot of things happen. Give us no names, but some dirty details. Let's get into the dirty details of Mickey Miller.
I've been personally groped like one time. at
Oh
a
my
sign.
God, you really have? So first of all, that was a joke.
Well, I mean, what are we
Which
talking
isn't funny.
here?
It's not funny to joke about that, but I was
No.
just trying to lighten the mood. But oh my God, you've literally
was
been
just-
groped.
Someone was, it was like people getting hammered. It's like at an outdoor bar, and like but you know what though? I was shocked. I was honestly like shocked that all the readers around me were shocked as well. And they're like, "Are you okay?" Like, it's like
Literally, are you okay? Because
99%.
you just
They're
got
literally like,
molested.
"Oh my God, like, are you okay?" I'm just like, yeah, it's the reader she was quite overserved, and she was so embarrassed the next day. So it was like one of these situations where it was like, like you're in that scenario, and everyone's, it's that 99% thing. It's like, gosh, everyone, there's so many, everyone, it's such the huge majority is like there in respectful, and like if you have one thing happen, it's like, oh, so
It's an awful thing, and you don't deserve to go through that. One time is one time too many. But I was absolutely floored at Chicago when I heard that male models were
I've seen
groped.
that so
And then
much.
when we talked about it,
seen
both
it.
Stacey and Colleen have seen it happen.
Oh yeah.
It
Oh, yeah.
absolutely
Like,
blows my mind.
People slipping them their phone numbers, like
like I I won't name names, but there was that one conference that the guys wore kilts, and they never, after that, they had a rule they they wore pants and you couldn't touch them. And they, they were like really like the women
It's
were
abuse. You're correct. That's the
abuse.
correct word. It was abuse.
Yeah.
Well, damn, I wanted to go to something. I guess I wouldn't. That's not a funny thing, is it? I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, I'm gonna.
It's a line, it's a line you have to, because it's like the genre is also built on, it's like you have a lot of advantages about being, it's like I said, like, yeah, sure, being like a good looking guy and going to a signing, like, do I get a little extra attention? Like, yes. So it's like, it's that like double-edged sword. And
but you would think that people know where the line is, that groping would cross that line.
I mean,
but then we have these situations like we recently had where readers are DMing hockey players and commenting lewd things on photos of their children. And it is, like you said, the majority.
Yes.
We understand social etiquette
players since Instagram got started.
Well, they're DMing them certain texts and passages and not understanding that they're married. But yeah. I literally,
and this has also been happening to women forever.
I get dick pics all the time. But I never have to worry about being groped at a signing. And I'm still floored that you actually have. Like, it blows my mind. I guess just because I don't know why, because I know that this happens. I know that it does, but it still absolutely blows my mind. And I don't know how to stop it.
Probably because you haven't personally witnessed it yet. But once you do,
I can't imagine how I would react.
Yeah. I did not.
I can't imagine how.
One time.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know. Like, what? So what did you do? Did you just kind of like back away?
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to talk like, oh,
I can do. Yeah, you can do like general. It was the signing I was in charge of, and I had to go and say something to the person, and basically told her she didn't knock it off. She was going to be escorted out. Like, no, you're not doing that here.
Was he all right?
He was upset. His wife was even more upset, who was right there.
Oh my gosh. I just can't imagine.
But Mickey, do you feel also, though, men feel like you need to respond different than women? Because I feel like, like the bar I used to work with, I was telling them one time, like, we got up and danced on it. No guy could touch us. Like, they would be thrown out, but the girls could just come up and touch the guys, and it seemed to be no problem. The guys were always like, oh, it's funny. And they had to act almost cool about it. And I'm like, why is that okay?
If I may just speak my opinion that I just made up 5 minutes ago. Thinking about this, which I honestly don't think, I haven't spent that much time thinking about it, because it didn't really, like, in terms of like emotional affectation, like there really was nothing there, because I think I was never like afraid for my safety or in any way. Like, I think that's the difference. Like, if a woman is groped by like, a stronger man, it's like, there's like a different like sort of safety thing there. Like, for me, it was just like, dude, it's like, why did you like poke my arm? It's like, everyone knew it was inappropriate. Like, we just moved on, and like that was it. So whereas if it were the reverse, I think that's where it is. It's like, if you're in that situation, you could actually do harm, or like it could cause like a like long-term harm or something like that. I don't know. That's again, just made that up. I don't know if that's
well, what's the phrase? Men are afraid to be rejected, women are afraid to be murdered. Like, that's
why those murder podcasts are so popular. Maybe
probably
makes sense. No, it is. That's I could see that. What men are afraid to be rejected, women are afraid
to be murdered.
Yeah.
One of my ex-girlfriends was absolutely obsessed with those murder podcasts. Should have been a red flag, but
no, we all.
I think it's a green flag.
People listen to those like going to sleep. They're just like, how is that the last thing you like listen to? But she had been like she had been like on a jog and been like had people follow her, so it's like that mentality. I think then it turns into like, oh shit, I need to like be hyper aware of this as from a woman's perspective, whereas from a man it's just like, well, like honestly, I've never I can't I can name very few times that felt I was in like some kind of peril, or like, you all probably would not be that same way, right? So
No, you
Sean,
get to you still walking with your keys through your fingers and like
Mhm.
Yeah.
from to your car. Yeah.
yeah, like right, exactly. Like I'm like a 6'2", tall man. I live in Chicago, but so I'm tough. I'm used to situations or whatever. It's like, but it's just not something. Although there is a serial killer in Chicago targeting like young men, because they're about
really?
Oh,
sure
wow.
thing. You go on TikTok, you want to go down another TikTok rabbit hole.
It'll be that. Yeah.
Honestly, there's like
Yeah.
a whole conspiracy about it, and it's like, it's wild. We don't have to get into it. I haven't got into it,
No,
but
but that
Yeah.
sounds like an interesting story though. Like
It
I
does,
know.
right? It does.
Like,
Very.
next book,
it is pretty. It's like, first you're like, this isn't wild, and they're like, isn't being covered by the mainstream, and like, but they'll find bodies like by the river, and like it's always the same. It's like someone was leaving, like last seen some like Chicago River North bar at like 3:30 a.m., and then their like body is found the next day in the river. It's like really, really weird.
to drink at home from now on. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm good with
I
that.
typically don't stay out that late anymore. Those days are
I know. Like those days
This
are
is-
done.
Feeling.
Well, to
So-
lighten up the mood, I do have a story
Yeah.
about Sean bartered with his mugger. He was getting mugged. He was in
poor
college. He was
Sean was.
drunk. He said he was drunk off of his ass. And the guy came up to him with a knife and was like, "Give me your wallet." And Sean was like, "No, I'm gonna have to call credit card companies, and my ID's in here. I'll give you my watch though." And the guy was like, "Okay." Took his watch. And Sean was like, just kept
Why do
going.
they take
That
it?
is so
We're gonna cancel our cards in a
Yeah.
second. You're not gonna get
he
anything
was
from
like,
it. So
he was like, "I'm broke, but I do have this watch." So
I was just mad the last time somebody took my stuff because the wallet my friend bought me from Scotland, and I was like, "But the
yeah.
wallet, what is the actual wallet? Take the money. I want the wallet."
Yeah.
So, do you have any advice for men trying to get into the industry?
Oh man, it's a fascinating question. I think
Nothing like putting you on the spot.
No, it's like, and
no,
go.
it is interesting because like I think you just have to focus on writing the best book possible, and like, I think one thing I do I think more about is just trying to be like nice, or like, I don't know, like just be normal and just be like positive, and don't have anything, just try to write good books, and like just keep doing it. And you know what though, also, and I haven't been as good about doing this lately, but I contend one of the things that I think I did a good job at least when I was starting out the first couple of years, was I would do a live feed every week. But one of the big things in the live feed is I would often like read someone else's book, or like sort of be promoting other authors. And I think that was helpful for me, because I think when starting out as like a male author too, especially, people are like, well, this person obviously just like, what is this guy doing? Like they kind of see you, I don't want to say like as a threat exactly, but it's like a suspicion. It's like, what are they doing here? So I think sort of trying to provide value for other authors is something that is, you can do as a man. You can sort of call attention to people's in a different way than a woman, like just another female author could. So yeah, I don't know, just write the best books possible though. It's just,
And keep writing and keep publishing, including you, Mickey. Publish that book because we want to read it.
Someone's gonna be
Very much.
writing your ass. I really want, I want to read that one that you're writing now. That one already, like,
so many people have said that, like, and I have a good editor scheduled for next month, so hopefully
Ooh.
we'll get it like going. But I'm like so nervous now. I'm like, what is the cover art gonna be like? I'm like,
Make it
It's like,
abstract, like a guitar,
Yeah.
like, but with the font
Mm,
that will, and a
dark,
title
pretty.
that will indicate that this is a slow burn romance.
I
You
was
know?
thinking like a guitar that's kind of like hollow in like blue, like something blue, because it's like a mist. It's like a sort of
Make it
about
really,
grief.
yeah, gritty and kind of dark. Yeah, guitar.
Mhm. Even though
pretty.
blue can also resonate with rom-coms. So just be like the shade, make sure your shade of blue and the darkness
Interesting.
of it will be good. Yeah.
Mhm.
We'll talk and we'll figure out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have 3 people here. I'll be
Yeah.
like, we'll design it like in the city.
And back in the day, Nikki and I, we used to go back and forth. Lori just sent this. Lori just sent that. Yeah. What do you think
Just
about
ask
this?
Willow like ours. I'm like, oh my, I don't have like, I think of all this, the different artistic skills of like musical writing stories, graphic, it's still something I struggle with. Like,
Oh,
even so today I've been working on so there's the album that goes along with this book, and I've been going into like the Chicago recording studio and recording those songs, and like they're real. I truly think they're a genre. If they're your flavor, then they're good. If they're like singer songwriter, acoustic guitar songs with that have like really cool, really interesting lyrics. And I've been trying to figure out what kind of artwork to like use with each song to post them on Spotify. And I've been like, cannot for the life of me decide what it should be. Like, what should this be? It should be like
Photoshop makes me cry, so I can't help you with that
Yeah.
one.
it's too
I
emo.
do
Like,
love the A Silly Little Love Song. That's the title of it. I think that would be amazing in pop and R&B. I think it could go into not just the acoustic guitar and such. I do love it as is. But yeah, I'm like, this is going to be picked up. I'm going to be Mickey's manager. Like, man.
I think the coolest thing about this genre and working with like, especially you, Willow, who I'm familiar with, it's like the way you can view this as like a holistic enterprise of
Mhm.
like where else could you, this is why I love writing romance, and I still contend why it's great, because you can be you're the director, you're the writer, you're the director, you're the actor. I mean, in the scenes, you're sort of directing everyone, like everything that's happening. And you don't need all of the, like, you don't need to have a whole team on board to do what you want to do. And you can do, I'm like, I'm writing this book. I'm like, you know what? I want to have it be their band is writing an album within the story. And then I'm also going to release that album, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do this, and then people are going to like actually get into it. And it's like blows my mind.
It really
Like,
does. And it's new. I mean,
Yeah.
so you're also talking about self-publishing, which my grandmother wrote romance novels, never published a single one, and they threw all of her manuscripts away. She passed away when I was younger, so I wasn't in the industry at the time. But it's like, yeah, so they threw them all away. And she had queried, she didn't have an agent. Like, yeah, she was a waitress in Wilmington, Delaware, just writing romance books on her free time. And yeah, like,
Oh
so
God, to have those.
I know.
Oh.
I wish. I so wish. Even though it does spare me of reading them and not liking them, just in case I didn't like. I'm sure I would have loved my mom's work. I'm sure. I think she's shining down on me. Like, I absolutely would have. But just in case I was a little critical, it does spare me of that. Right.
Right.
But Mickey,
Mhm.
is there something that like you want to say? Any book that you want us to know about?
Yes.
Anything? Like, let us know.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. So one question I get asked a lot is like, Mickey, if I'm going to start with one of your books, which book should I start with of the books that I've written so far? Obviously, I can tell you the book that I'm like in writing is, people definitely want to, when I start describing it, people are like, yes, like, anyways, but this book, I have a book here with, it's called The Line Game, that I wrote in 2018, and it's kind of a special book. I think it's a special book because it's just like a really good book. It's like enemies to lovers, like forced
Oh, my favorite.
proximity, like he's a basketball player, and there's like some really hot, steamy scenes.
I
It's
read a
duet.
snippet of this in Facebook, didn't I? And it went
Yeah,
like
this is
top
what-
10 on Amazon too, didn't it? Like
Yeah,
it's
this
a very
is like
successful, like
it's
it's
over. It's you know what?
it
Actually,
was
yeah,
spicy. I blushed. I remember them making
I
fun of
know.
me for blushing.
yeah. I mean, it's like actually, no, you know, actually, what I'm proud about is like it actually didn't go in the top 10 of Amazon, but it was in like I think it was in the top like 50 or whatever. But I'm more proud of the work that I did to write this book. I was like, it was one summer, like, I don't know, 5 years ago about, and I was like, damn, I need to write like a really good book. I just was thinking to myself, I was like, I need to write a better book. And I did this thing where I just stopped going on Facebook like until 5 p.m. I would go to my studio and like write for about, I mean, it took about 4 or 5 weeks. So it wasn't like forever or whatever, but it really did produce like a great book. And it just took a lot of work to do that, of like insanity of, you know, being all alone and going into a studio and like writing. But that book has sold the most of all my books, that duet, over its lifetime. So I think that kind of shows that it's like a book that people like all like to read, you know, like my books are in KU. So like people will read and they'll finish it. And I think they just love the sex scene in chapter 13 too.
Okay.
That
New
that right
chapter.
there
You know
is a
what we're
good hook
doing
line.
tonight.
That's a good hook line. I'm just saying, if you're gonna make a
Yeah.
TikTok talking about marketing, that
Mhm,
I think they just like just saying that one line, holding
mhm,
up the book, and with the caption, "It was a bestseller after all." Boom.
mhm.
I say
I'm
do
gonna do
it.
that right after we get off this
You
podcast.
should.
That you
You
should.
should.
Do
Please
it.
go viral, Mickey. Please go viral. I'd love to see you on top publishing 1 million books and doing all the wonderful things. Yeah. So yeah. All right. Well, cheers
you.
to what a
Yeah.
It was so nice
wonderful
meeting you,
night.
too.
Yes, it's
Thank
been
you for joining
great.
us.
We went through some heavy shit. Holy shit.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for giving us
Yes.
your perspective, which is very unique, and we wouldn't have it without you. And thank you for enduring and continuing to write.
And
and
hopefully I'll
going.
be able to meet you in person someday.
Yeah.
This was fun. Yeah, this was fun. And yeah, that'd be good. I'm going to Galena, Illinois in next month. That's my next signing.
Mhm.
So
Excellent. Well,
Anyway,
cheers.
all right. Cheers.
Or did you want to
Cheers,
say something,
everybody.
Stacey? I totally cut you off.
No.
Okay,
No.
just kidding. Okay.
It's fine.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
all right, cheers, everybody.